everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Amanda Kelly Thompson. I'm the Director of Advancement at NAMI Delaware, and I will be moderating today's presentation. We want you to know that you are not alone. This is a difficult time, and what we talk about today may generate some strong feelings in you that you don't expect. So it's important to know you can access crisis support 24/7, no matter where you are. For the National Crisis Text Line, you can text DE to 741-741, or you can access the Delaware Hope Line by calling 1-833-9-HOPE-DE or by texting DE Hope 55753. I would like to introduce our presenter, Chaplain Pamela Adams. She's originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and is the Director of Spiritual Life and University Chaplain at Delaware State University. She served proudly in the United States Air Force for 9.5 years, while simultaneously matriculating through seminary and obtaining undergraduate, graduate, and terminal degrees in theology. She's an expert in the arena of spiritual rehabilitation with over 13 years of experience. She's received training in clinical pastoral education and family advocacy at the Durham Veterans Affairs Medical Center and the world-renowned Johns Hopkins Hospital, as well as a certification in Christian counseling through the National Christian Counselors Association of Sarasota, Florida. Chaplain Pam also serves as a spiritual advisor at the Capital Region Recovery Centers of America and is the principal and owner of Faithful and Faithful, a lifestyle management firm. This presentation will have question and answer session at the end, so please put any questions or comments in the chat box, and we will try to answer as many as possible. I will now turn it over to Chaplain Pam.
Thank you, Miss Amanda, so much. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to NAMI, specifically Dr. Josh, like I said, Miss Amanda, Wesley, Miss Jen, Miss Annie, all of those that make these types of events possible. We truly, truly thank you all for your service to making these things happen and us having the opportunity to come and share, as well as to listen as well. So thank you so much. I want to go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. Is that good? Can everybody see that? I hope so. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to send out virtual hugs to everyone who needs one. 2020 has been quite a year. You have to agree that 2020 has been quite a year. We have experienced unprecedented situations that have altered the very course of our lives, from the pandemic panic and quarantine cabin fever to social and racial inequalities. The range of emotions that we have been forced to deal with and sort through have run a gamut. So I wanted to send everyone virtual hugs, like I said, who needs and want one, because it has been rough. It is October, but it still has been rough. With everything that we've been dealing with, I thought about something I had been working on quite a bit ago, and it's Pitch Perfect, positioning individuals towards complete healing from this perspective of some of the things that we have to do personally in order to get ourselves in a position to be able to heal. So that's where this particular title came from. Really quick, Miss Amanda named some of the things that I've had the opportunity to accomplish. But the reason why I wanted to let you all know that is because I've had the opportunity and I've been blessed to have numerous conversations with numerous types of people with or experiencing or walking through various walks of life. And so having the opportunity to talk with so many different types of individuals has led me to this particular conversation that I want to have this afternoon. And just as I told Miss Amanda earlier, I realized that it is Monday at 4 o'clock. So I am not going to be before you long. I know pastors say that all the time, but I promise you, I actually mean it. I actually mean it. So just stick with me, just hang with me for a few minutes. So when we talk about pitch perfect positioning individuals towards complete healing, what am I talking about? So the very first thing that I realized is that one of the greatest hindrances of forward progression is the past. Whether it's past hurt, past pain, past relationships, or past regret, this old baggage can weigh you down, and it can prevent you from progressing forward in life. This is especially true for people who have experienced trauma or serve as a resource for those who've experienced trauma, such as medical workers, veterans, members of the clergy. All of us have some way, shape, form, or fashions have dealt with individuals that have dealt with trauma. So when we think of trauma, we have to make sure that we understand the three types of trauma. So there's acute trauma, which is single incident trauma. We have chronic trauma, which is repeated or prolonged, and we have complex trauma when you're exposed to various and multiple traumatic events. So when you think of the numerous relationships we've had over the years, our friendships, our boos, our side pieces, I work with college students, so bear with me, as well as those maybes that we've had in our life, we are carrying around those broken feelings. And we also have this old baggage from things that we haven't dealt with. So if I was to ask you a question this afternoon, it would be, for you or individuals that you're dealing with, how much does your emotional pain weigh? I always tell people when I hear them talk about how tired they are, or I hear people talk about they just feel so weighed down, I ask them, well, how much do you weigh? And they automatically get offended. And then I have to clarify, I'm not talking about your physical weight, I'm talking about the things that you need to heal from. We carry around so much and we don't even realize that our emotional pain can sometimes outweigh how much we're actually carrying around and in reference to our personal weight. So we have to get a deeper understanding of where we are currently and where we should be, or where we're aspiring to be, so that we can utilize our full potential. But a lot of times we get stuck in a foxhole and we have no idea how to get out of it, and we are ashamed to ask anybody, and we just dwell there. And oftentimes this is the case because we have experienced the yeah right phenomenon. And when I say the yeah right phenomenon, I'm thinking of individuals that I've talked to where I've asked, well, how come you haven't gotten any help? They'll say, yeah, right. And I'm like, well, help me understand that. And so they'll give me examples of times when they actually have reached out for help. And so I have to remind them that don't stop. Just because that one particular situation did not pan out in the way that you thought it should have, because either that person didn't believe you or they were dismissive about your feelings, don't give up. So when we have those types of experiences, we still need to seek out the help so that we can get to our full potential. If you do not remember anything else that I say from this presentation on this afternoon, please remember this. When our body heals, we find freedom. When our heart heals, we are open to possibilities. When our mind heals, our zeal for curiosity awakens. When our spirit heals, we are able to trust again. And I believe we are then on our way to exploring and understanding what our full potential is. So I want us to think about something. When you sow a thought, you reap an action. When you sow an action, you reap a habit. When you sow a habit, you reap a lifestyle. So it all begins with our thoughts. So if we are trying to position ourselves for healing, our mind frame must change. I want us to continue out to seek out the help that we need. I want us to go to therapy. I want us to use those spiritual and religious activities that we use. I want us to do all of those things, but I also want us to take our lives back so that the therapy and the prayers and etc can show the manifestation of change, right? Because it's one thing for us to continue to seek out the help and continue to seek out all these different things. But if we're not personally doing anything to bring about that change, I feel like, what are we really doing? I don't know about you, but to me, in order for this to work, we have to be in the correct position to receive. And what I mean by that is we have to be at a space where our heart, our mind, and our souls are open and receptive to wanting to receive that change that needs to take place. We were never intended to carry amount, we were never created to carry around the amount of weight that we're carrying. What are you talking about, sis? Well, what I'm talking about is sometimes we have the tendency to take on more than what we should. I know a lot of us that work in the field of helping other people have difficulty saying no. And then you're probably saying, not me. I tell, I'm talking to you. We have difficulty telling people, no, we cannot do something. We take on more than what we actually can handle. I'll say it again. We take on more than what we actually can handle. No one on the outside sees that, but on the inside, if we were to do an inside look, what would the insides look like? Are we taking care of ourselves the way that we should? Because we're carrying around all this stuff. We get in the cycle of being human doings instead of being human beings. So all we do. And when I said that in my head, it sounded okay. I just said it out loud. It sounded terrible. So I apologize, but we do get in the habit of doing all the time and we're not being. We have the tendency to live only in the names that we're known by. I'll say that again. We have the tendency to only live out in the names that we are known by. So whether that's therapist, mommy, daddy, auntie, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, we are confined in these boxes day to day. So my question for you is, when are you just Pat? Or when are you just Bill? Because we always are doing something. So the question is, are you a human being or are you a human doing? Then the other question I would ask you this afternoon, are you living or are you just existing? Because a lot of times, what I've noticed, especially in this field, we have the tendency to just exist. We're just trying to get it done. We're just trying to get the reports done. We're just trying to get all these things done. But in reality, we're not living. We're not taking the time out for ourselves. And these are the types of questions that we need to ask ourselves as we are getting into position. Please hear my heart. I believe everybody is beautiful and talented individuals, and we are capable of achieving anything and everything that we put our mind to. And we all have to agree that that requires action. Achieving only works if you believe you have the capacity to heal, the capacity to achieve, and the capacity to grow, and to let go of the residue that was left behind from the experiences that we have gone through. A lot of times we don't get rid of everything. I have an analogy that I use with my patients at the drug treatment facility when we're talking about baggage, is that some of us have been on earth a little bit longer than others. And if you have grown up in the 70s up until now, one of the things that I talk about is luggage. And luggage has evolved dramatically over the years since the 70s. You remember when luggage, well, I'll say when I arrived on the scene, luggage was kind of hard and it had handles and you had to carry it from place to place. My father was in the military as well, so we did a lot of traveling. So I remember the old luggage, the old real, my dad used to say real leather, the real leather luggage that used to exist. And then from there, we went to more of an upright luggage, right? And that was before wheels. And then the wheel phenomenon came where it had the two wheels. And then from there, it went from two wheels to four wheels. And then it went to hard, like hard luggage. And over the years, this luggage has evolved. And I ask my patients all the time, as the luggage has evolved, what type of luggage are you still carrying around inside? Are you carrying luggage and baggage from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s? Because a lot of times, in my opinion, we surface unpack when we're meeting with our therapists and things of that nature. We do not go deep down. What am I talking about? 50 pounds or less. We all know when you travel, we'll be thankful when we can get on a plane for real and go somewhere. I'm hoping real soon. But the reality is, when you pack, you know, you have a 50-pound limit. And we have gotten really crafty in how we pack our luggage. And so we roll up things really tight and we have things in different sections and we layer our luggage and our toiletries and jewelry and clothes and shoes and all of these other things. But the reality is when we are going through our baggage, our emotional baggage, we just have the tendency to unpack that top layer. We don't get down to the bottom. So then we wonder, as time evolves, why am I still heavy? Why am I still feeling the way that I do? That's because we haven't thoroughly gone through our baggage. No limits simply means no limits. not restricting myself to reside in a place of hurt any longer. I can do a change of address on my emotions. I don't have to stay in the same place that I am. So I was once asked a question, if I could define moral injury. I did a moral injury conference not too long ago, and I always said moral injury is when my hurt hurts. And I use the language of soul damage instead of moral injury, only because of the population that I deal with. And a lot of times, different populations that we deal with, we have to change the lingo because they don't want additional labels on their lives. So I say soul damage. So we describe the pain in different ways, but whatever the label is, it is important to explore what it looks like for that care that our soul needs on a regular basis. And I'm not just talking about in the moment, I'm talking about continuously, because a lot of times we just target that emotional pain that takes place in the moment. Whatever triggered that, that's what we're going to deal with. I think sometimes we need to dig a little deeper. And when we nourish, it simply means that we're adding things necessary for growth, health, and good condition. Self-care, we have talked about it. We have written books about it. We have we have done presentations about it. I think now is the time to actually do it. If we haven't learned anything during this pandemic, one thing I know for sure that we definitely have to agree with is that we really, really don't know what's going to happen. And because we don't know what's going to happen, I think it's important that we take better care of our souls and our hearts and our minds and our spirits. Because if we don't, we already know. Well, I'll say this, we don't know what's going to happen. So why not take care of yourself? Nurturing is caring for and encouraging the growth or development of your soul. No one sets out to diminish the health of their own soul, but let's face it, it happens. Sometimes the demands of everyday life keep us from tending to our inner life. Sometimes we severely undervalue the importance of our interior world. We have the tendency to make sure everything is dressed right, dressed on the outside, but on the inside, I want us to do a better job of taking care of ourselves. It is foundational to who you are. In the end, everything about your life, your personhood, is in some way a function of your soul. The health of your soul matters. So please, we got to do a better job of taking care of our souls. Failure, as much as it hurts, it is an important part of life. Without failure, we'd be less capable of compassion, empathy, kindness, and great achievement. We would be less likely to reach for the moon and the stars. It's through failure that we learn the greatest lessons that life could teach us. Do I have the answers to why things happen to us? Absolutely not, because if I did, I would be rich and I would be gone somewhere. I would own an island, right? But because I don't have that answer, I have to still stay at this place of being encouraged to know that those failures in our lives are not the end of the story. Let's take the lessons we have learned about ourselves and grow. I told you I was not going to be long. So let's recap. We have to understand where you are versus your full potential. I hope that you will now look into gaining a deeper understanding of where you currently are and where you should aspire to be after utilizing your full potential. When we focus on soul care, I also hope you are able to be exposed a little bit more to understanding soul care and learn what it is and that it's an ongoing process, not just a one-time thing, that you're constantly doing things to nourish and nurture your soul. Again, not just on a one-time experience. And then our lessons disguised as failures. Please, please, please. Let's learn to embrace our past failures as lessons learned and come to understand that our pain builds character. All right. Do we have any questions? I appreciate you just hanging with me for those few minutes and indulging me on this afternoon. I would love to have some conversation in reference to positioning ourselves towards complete healing.
Great. Thank you so much, Chaplain Pam. That was a wonderful presentation. I had one question come in that asked, how do you learn to do this in the age of social media when things are constantly, it feels like you sign on and then it's instantly, upsetting or stressful or something along those lines?
Well, one of the things that I tell my students as well as the individuals, because we have this conversation quite often. I do a presentation called "Don't Let Social Media Ruin Your Life," because the reality is that it's not real. And I think we're constantly saying that, but I think we have to believe it. We have to get to this space where people are only going to post the positivity of their life. They're not going to produce the negativity, because everybody always wants to make it seem as though nothing is wrong and everything is beautiful and we're just tiptoeing through the tulips. But the reality is it's a mess. If we were real, I think people would be more inclined to just be honest. You know what I mean? Like I tell my students all the time, like, just log off. Take a social media break. Instagram, TikTok, what all of them. Just take a break from it. I have set a designated time daily for social media, just because it can be very overwhelming, and then you can find yourself clicking and clicking and clicking, and then an hour has gone by and you just realize you have wasted a whole hour on somebody else's life that's not even real. So I definitely recommend creating a social media time frame. Give yourself what that should look like, and not constantly going on social media, because it can mess you up. Because people, again, are posting their best lives, and it's the reality is, let's be real, like, for 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I told you, I'm very transparent. I told Amanda I had to get the virtual background because this office is a wreck. Like, if I was to show you, but that's what this is. It's a filter so that you can't see the chaos on the other side. And we have to realize that there is always something on the other side. I hope I answered that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice that we oftentimes don't think of or forget ourselves. I know I'm guilty of the scrolling endlessly.
I didn't click, and then it said click here, and where you get that from? And you just keep going and going, and you're just like in the circle of the hamster cage circle of just going, 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 and not really doing anything purposeful. Like, and I think if you allocate just a certain amount of time, it just makes it so much easier for yourself. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else sent in a question. What are some resources that can help us kind of take care of ourselves and practice these strategies? If you know of any, or any books or other resources that maybe are out there.
I know there are tons of books on soul care. I love Amazon, and I don't work for them, but I just like them. They get my money, but Amazon Healing Damaged Emotions is a really good book. It's spiritually based, but it's extremely good, helping us deal with the things that we are going through. It actually has a workbook that's attached to it. I know that there are numerous soul care books out there. I'm indulging now in emotional intelligence. A lot of those books help you understand about self-acceptance, self-management, and then you'll be able to focus on relationship management and those things. So I've been reading a lot of matter of fact, Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is a really good book that just helps you understand who you are so that you're able to then deal with other people. I think a lot of times we struggle with dealing with other people because we don't understand ourselves well enough. And it's as as old as I am and as experienced as I think I am, this time reading it, because this was another version, this is the 2.0 version, I'm finding out even more about myself. And I think just Google is phenomenal. I think Googling different things that we're trying to focus on in our lives also is a good tool. And then I can always send Amanda some things and she can post them, or however we can do it, so that people can have access to those things, because it is important for us to take time out for ourselves. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. Another question was, does pain does pain builds character also apply to learning from trauma?
I would say yes. I think it helps. I think it helps put you in a position to want to excel. Like when we go through things, I always believe that there's a lesson in everything that we go through, whether it's a success or a failure. And sometimes it's painful. And so for me, it always, the question that I always ask, after I finish crying, is what was it that I was supposed to learn? And so I don't have to repeat this lesson again in life, right? Because I think a lot of times, as I said, we get stuck in these foxholes and we just continue to go in the same direction, doing the same thing. And I think that's the definition of insanity. We want a different result, but we constantly go through these things and we don't learn the lesson. We have to learn the lesson, because if not, the pain is just going to come back again in a different way, because we're going to try to do the same thing and we're going to get the same results. So I agree. Yes, I believe sometimes it is painful. We don't want to go through pain, but I think it's necessary for our character. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome, thank you. So this is the last question I see, so if anyone else has anything they'd like to ask, Chaplain Pam, please put it in and I can, we'll bring that up. But what are tips for people who are experiencing maybe secondary or vicarious trauma right now? So spiritual leaders or psychiatrists or counselors, do you have any tips to help, kind of in this realm when you're also experiencing the secondary and vicarious trauma with your professional life?
I think, and to be complete transparent, I don't know, Delaware is small, so I'm pretty sure you all have seen that the University Chaplain at Delaware State, we recently lost a student last Sunday. And for me, unfortunately, we have had, by being a college, you're going to have to deal with death. That's just, there's nothing to get, we're just going to have to deal with it. But this particular young man's situation hit me a little bit differently than our previous. No, for number one, it's our first murder. We've never had a student be murdered. It's always, a car accident or something along those lines. But so this was hard. It was very difficult. And for me, it immediately took me back to Johns Hopkins and all the trauma. I began to see images in my head, and I immediately had to call my mentor. I immediately had to seek out someone, because I'm like, what is happening? What am I going through? Why is this happening now? I've been at Del State for 7 years. I've had no less than 2 students pass away per semester. I'm pretty strong in this area, but I don't know what was going on. I had the virtual prayer, not virtual prayer. We actually had an in-person prayer on campus on Monday. And when I finished praying and seeing about everybody, I had to sit down, because I literally felt like the Rolodex of images started flashing before my eyes in reference to the trauma, because I actually saw the young man in the hospital after he had passed early Monday morning. And so I recommend therapists, pastors. I did it last year. We have to seek out professional help as well. We're not immune to all of the things that are going on, especially with the type of work and the services that we provide, because as I said earlier, we have the tendency to continue to go. We have the tendency to, it doesn't matter what's going on, we become, we feel as though we're immune to the problems of this world. And it is the exact opposite. Not only are we not immune, we carry a lot more. And so we have the tendency to be tired. We have the tendency to carry a lot more weight than what we actually should be carrying around. So I recommend seeking out a professional, getting yourself a mentor, having someone that you can bounce off of and you need to make sure that person is non-judgmental. Please hear my heart. You don't need anyone that's not going to be there for you. You need someone that's actually someone that you can go to and talk to. Build yourself a community. I have had no choice but to do that over the years, just because of the things that I've witnessed and the things that I've seen. A lot of people haven't seen those things, and being able to talk to someone that has an idea of what I'm dealing with is important as well. So definitely, please seek out people that'll help you process, because you're gonna need to process this stuff. And I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna say it every year. Get yourself a therapist, a real one that can help you process, because if you don't, it's gonna come back in some type of shape, form, or fashion. So it is definitely necessary for you to get the help that you need. Yes, ma'am.
Great, that's awesome advice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We had another question come in. It's what would you recommend to older adults who are socially isolated and without technology to link them to live streaming church services or other social outlets? So how can they embrace
Oh,
resilience, I
wow.
think, during
That's a good
the period?
question. Um, that's definitely a good question because I think about my mom. So I call my mom's name is Joyce Ann. So Miss Joyce Ann, she is not, she's somewhat, but my sister goes and helps her a lot. And a lot of times when things are not right, she'll let us know that it's the equipment in the house. And we tell her all the time it's user error. But I definitely would say this is a question that I need to do a little bit more research on. And I only say that because I feel like there's a way that we can help connect you to some church services and things of that nature, depending on where you live. Like I have no problem with helping you get what you need. I don't believe anyone should be that isolated if there are a way, like I think there's a way that we can help you. So please, if we could get your information to Miss Amanda, and I can work on that because I don't want anyone, especially right now, because I feel like we are isolated. We're not with anybody, and that can be a very lonely place. And I since she said church, I don't believe God intended for us to be by ourselves. So I believe that there's a way that we can connect you. I just need to know a little bit more because I do want you to be resilient, and I do want you to remember that you're more than a conqueror. I do want you to remember that you can do all things. Like I could preach to you now, but I'll wait for Miss Amanda to give me the information, and I'll make sure that we figure this out for you because I don't want you to be by yourself. No one, especially right now, should be by themselves.
Great. Yeah, and that kind of goes, we're always here as a resource at NAMI Delaware, and we can always try and help connect to the community and to other groups that might be able to help, especially during these COVID times. So, okay, I think this might be the last question, unless anyone else has anything else. How do you talk to someone who has, and I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, anosognosia, and someone who is not aware, I guess, of their mental condition, get through to them?
That's a good question. I'll tell you like I tell the patients that I deal with at the drug treatment facility, the individuals that are in denial um, about what they're dealing with. I always say, if you can't see it, I can't help you see it, right? I believe that people stay in a place of denial because it's comfortable. If I'm in denial and I'm okay with my chaos, it's easier for me to become comfortable in my chaos than it is for me to deal with change. And so a lot of times people become comfortable in the things that they're in. And I think a lot of times until that person is ready to receive the help that is available to them, you can't force somebody to want to change. They have to change on their own. Now this is a different situation if this person is trying to hurt themselves or hurt others. That's a different conversation. But if we're just talking about being in denial about what they're dealing with, I think until that individual is ready for change, we cannot force change upon them. They have to be at a space where they are wanting change. And a lot of times people don't want change. They don't. I see it all the time. They don't want to change because, like I said, it's easy for me to chill in my chaos. It's easy because when I change, I don't know what's going to happen. People can't see the future. Unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen. But if I know I'm on this hamster wheel of life, I know what it sounds like, what it looks like, when it's going to squeak, how many times I'll go around in this hamster wheel before I get tired and take a break, come out and get back in. I know that, but I don't know what it looks like to do something different. And so I would recommend until that person is ready, we can't force them. They have to be open and receptive and in the position to want change.
Great, thank you so much. I think that's the last question we had. If anyone else has any additional questions, you can always feel free to send them to me at athompson@namide.org. Like I said, we're always willing and hopefully able to connect people to resources. So, and thank you again, Chaplain Pam. That was a wonderful presentation. I think everyone agrees. So everyone can go start their night a little bit early. But
thank you. Yes, I told you I was not going to keep you long. I realized today was Monday and it's 4:00 in the afternoon. So, hey, let's go get something to eat. You all take care and everybody stay blessed. All right. All right. Bye-bye.